So let's jump. Okay. So that was the first piece of good news, and there was a lot of good news tucked in there. Let's talk about the Comite Diversion Canal. You know,
Yeah.
First real contract in 15 years for actual construction. And I'm going to let you take it away because I know this is exciting.
Yeah. Look, so technically, you could argue that the Comite project has been under construction. They built this $32 million bathtub years ago. We've done relocation of utilities and things, but this is real. I mean, this is the giant leap forward, and there's no stopping us now. A $55 million contract was just issued last week for construction. At this point, it's focusing on bridges, because the deal is when you dig a canal and you had a road there, now that road's got to become a bridge. And so that's largely what this is. So it does include digging. It includes the construction or creating new bridges where there was just an at-grade road. But I'll say it again. There's no stopping us now. This is the first major construction contract issued on the Comite project. We have secured all of the funds, which ends up being nearly $400 million. It is all in the bank. We're no longer subject to the whims of an annual appropriations process like we saw a drought. But before I came into Congress, I'm trying to remember, I think it was like 6 years with no money on the project whatsoever. And so now having money that is in the bank to complete this project, McHugh, I think by next year, by the end of next year, we absolutely will see flood protection improvements for Livingston Parish, for East Baton Rouge, and Ascension. We are going to see next year our flood insurance rates go down as a result. And it's important to remember that this isn't just kind of a one-time deal or the only thing that's out there. Right now, today in Livingston Parish, 350 miles of rivers, bayous, and canals being dredged, cleared, snagged, widened, improved. And so this is complementary to that. We are evacuating water out of our front yards, our backyards, our communities faster. And now we are, as a result of the Comite project, all that water is not going to go down the Comite and ultimately the Amite River through Livingston Parish. We're going to be siphoning off a huge volume of it and sending it out to the Mississippi River, therefore bringing down levels on Amite and Comite rivers. And just really excited about what this is going to do to help provide better flood protection and really just security for our homes, our families in the region.
Right. And for the audience's sake, even in conservative estimates, there was still 1.5 to 2 foot of benefit to Livingston Parish, specifically the Denham Springs area. These two come together right at Denham Springs. That'd be the Comite and the Amite. And it causes problems. So anything that helps the Comite can be beneficial, and in this case is beneficial. Want to talk a little bit about the strategy for the Comite, because I've had questions about this, some confusion. Mm-hmm. It's being done in sections, and a lot of people are curious about that. And I'd like to hear from you exactly why that's going on.
All right. So I understand that if we were digging a ditch in our backyard, we'd probably start on one end and just keep digging till we get to where we need to go. And in this case, because certain components of that miles and miles of stretch of canal has certain complexities. And in some cases, and you may remember, we had a really hard time negotiating real estate with one of the railroads and just even access to the property. And so you have other areas where you may have real estate, you may have technical, environmental, you may have engineering challenges, or something that maybe a utility relocation gets delayed. So the deal is the Corps of Engineers, and I have to give them credit for this, as frustrating as they have been to work with in many cases, I have to give them credit for this. We pushed them, they agreed. They are going to dig the segments of the project as it's ready. So instead of starting at segment A and waiting for B to be ready, and that could be 6 months after they're finished with A, and so we're sitting there with excavators and bulldozers for 6 months just doing nothing. If section D is ready after A, then we're going to D, and we're going to start digging D. And so what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to be more adaptive, more agile, but more importantly, it's going to result in this project being delivered earlier, this project being finished earlier. And I think that's what's most important at the end of the day. I don't think people care about whether, we start east or start west or start in the middle. People want to see this project finished. People are sick of the delays. They're sick of paying the tax and all the talk on this thing. And so this is going to result in flood protection sooner, which is the goal that I think all of us share.
Exactly. And I mean, flood protection is, drainage and flood protection, actually two different things, really. But one of the interesting things that is on the docket right now is the Amite River and the multitude of studies that's going on the basin.
Yeah.
Uh, you had a very, I want to say, poignant quote. A few, it was, time flies, man. I mean, I think it was actually last year, the year before. But you said that within these studies, we need to be, a lot of people are focused on the Darlington, and we'll talk about that in a second. But one of the quotes you said was, we've got to be focused on those things that provide the most value at the right cost. Give me a little background on that statement, because I know so many people are ready to just dive into projects.
Yeah. So, look, there are a number of things that are really important for us to keep in mind. Comite has been one of those, really poster child projects that I know about it, my kids know about it, my parents know about it, and it's just been out there for so long. But we all need to remember, Comite was largely designed or conceived back in the late 70s, and of course after the '83 flood. And I don't need to tell you or anybody else who's watching or listening, I mean, we have gone through just incredible growth and changes in our community since '83. And so it would be a big mistake for us to come in and say, all right, we're planning for 1983, because we need to be thinking about not even 2020, we need to be thinking about 2035 in the future. And so I think it's really important, number one, that we do move forward with Comite, because its fundamentals are solid in terms of getting water, siphoning water off of the Comite River and getting it over to the Mississippi, giving more capacity to the Amite and Comite. But we need to be thinking about, where have people developed now? Where do we have an excess of water now? How can we build projects that are complementary to the Comite, complementary to the 350 miles, the $120 million that's being spent dredging, clearing, snagging those waterways out right now? And so I know that a lot of people, they say, okay, well, I know there's Comite, I know there's Darlington, so let's go build Darlington. And Darlington may be the best solution. It may be the most cost-effective solution, but I think we're going to be making a mistake if we go into an analysis that's underway right now, because we did fund $3 million to the Corps of Engineers to study the entire Amite Basin. So we're not stopping at the 1983 Comite solution. We're, again, truly preparing for the future. And I really pushed the Corps. I said, don't come in and have your scope be only Darlington. While that's important, you've got to have a broader scope for the whole basin and figure out, with new development, how do we most efficiently, both time and cost-wise, achieve better flood protection for our communities, and not sit out there and just wait for this one mega solution. And I'll say it again, it may be a really good component or even the anchor, the most important part of an overall solution. But there are other things that need to be done, and we shouldn't box ourselves in to one project in terms of looking at solutions on the Amite.
So all, that's all, everything's constantly moving. And I want to take a step back to when you and I were much younger men, and it was your first town hall here. And one of the things you said was the cost of disaster recovery is 3 times more than the cost of disaster prevention. Thought that was very appropriate. That number has grown, I believe. But I want to say that we actually have I guess you can say, a real life case study of that, which is the Darlington, right?
Yeah.
And really the Comite as well. So wrap it up for us in a bow. We're talking about all of these. We want them to be cost effective, but we're also looking in the future and, sort of couch it with that statement of, we've got to make these projects work, because it'll only get more expensive if we have to recover again.
Yeah, yeah. So there are numerous studies, and on the low end, you're right, $3 in cost savings for every $1 you invest proactively. And I believe there's studies that go up to $11 or $12 saved for every $1 you invest in proactive solutions. Look, Darlington, one of the cost estimates that came out associated with it was in excess of $2 billion, $2 billion. And so what we need to do is we need to just be looking and determine, if we're going to spend $2 billion, is that the most effective solution? Is it the most effective place to spend that kind of money? Or are there 5 smaller projects that could actually result in greater outcomes, in greater flood protection and drainage evacuation for our region? And so bottom line is that we have got to be proactive and stop all of this reactive stuff where we're coming in decades after projects were planned, or coming in years after floods. A disaster shouldn't be the impetus for action. We've got to be more proactive. So that's why we didn't just secure $1.4 billion through the Corps, $300 million through FEMA, $50 million through USDA, but we also secured $1.2 billion in flood mitigation funds. And the whole idea behind those is we're going to spend all of this other money, $1.7 billion, somewhere around there, on all of these other projects that were largely conceived before the 2016 flood. We're going to take that $1.2 billion and we're going to be proactive. We're going to be preparing for the future. We're going to be making sure that we're not prepared for 83, we're prepared for 2035 and for the future. That way, when that next 2016 flood happens, we don't go out and spend $12 billion picking up the pieces as we've done from this one. Instead, we've gone ahead and we've spent $1.2 billion on the front end, therefore saving us perhaps $10 billion on the back end. And that's the kind of investment we need to be making, being proactive, leaning forward, and not waiting to be reactive in the aftermath of a flood.
And a lot of things that are not considered in that disaster assessment is the physical toll it takes on people and the mental toll.
Absolutely.
Spending that money up front has a lot of benefits. Well, look, I know you and I can talk about this all day, but I do appreciate your time. And of course, it's Congressman Garret Graves here. He took the time out of his day to join us, wanted to talk about schools, talked about Comite, lots of good information. We do appreciate the work you've been doing. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep. And thank you all for joining us. I do appreciate it. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us one last time, and we hope you have a great day.